And we are here at the penultimate episode. And today's episode, I've got a lot to talk about. Today's episode's given us so much. I've got some symbology to talk about. I've got one spoiler that I'm deciding to drop, and I'm going to do it. And I won't do it till the end, so I'll give you a chance to kind of cut out if you don't want to hear it. I've also got some stuff to tell you guys at the end of the video, so stay tuned to that. But I've got a lot to say. There was a lot in today's episode. So today's episode opened on a news report, and we find out that the people who have fallen into deep sleep, so we saw that last week, that people who just kind of fell asleep, never woke up again. People were falling into a sleep, and although they were stable, nobody knew why they weren't waking up. The title for today's episode is At the Edge of the Coming Time. There we go. And we see that Victor is investigating the Cognitive Psychological Association. We are going to call them CPA, and because I'm not going to keep saying that. It's such a long word. So if you hear me say CPA, that is what it is. It is they're the people who are researching the sleeping. So cognitive function is your brain functions. So that is what we're going to call them. And we see with Victor that he sees, I'm going to call them flash forwards because that's kind of what they are. We see a flash forward to where Loveland is frozen, and he gets a glimpse of himself and MC, and then that cuts. We cut to MC, who is... Here's our first Easter egg, guys. There's an Easter egg, and I'm going to put it on the screen quickly. MC's phone background. If you are playing a game and you go to Stroll, and it doesn't matter who you can go to Stroll with anybody, and you head to a place called Meatery Eatery, which is a great place. I love it. You will notice it is the exact same picture. So yes, they have put a game Easter egg in here, and I love it. And I'm so happy I picked up on it because it's quite quick. She kind of half flips her phone around and then she puts it down again. So hopefully you guys saw it. If not, it's on the screen right now. And if you're anime only kind of thing, this is just a fun Easter egg, guys. This is what the game screen looks like. So we find out Kiro is missing, and MC has heard from nobody. So she's not heard from any of the boys whatsoever. When Gavin left her, because obviously he caught her from the sky and he left her on the balcony, he said that he had some stuff to take care of and that he'd come back when he's finished. And MC then gets a quick flash where, at this time it's a premonition, she sees Loveland frozen. And if you guys haven't kind of got the hint, I think Loveland's about to get frozen. And she says this is the beginning. So that is our setup. We had quite a bit of setup this episode. And we've got a lot of setup for next week's episode, which is our end episode. And we are ending exactly where I thought we were going to end. So I called it. We see that Miracle Finder is researching the sleeping syndrome, as they're going to call it. And the only things they can find out is that all the sleepers are young. They're in their teens or they are up to their young 30s. So I'm going to be sleeping. I'm so happy I'm considered young by the show. That's nice. And we find out that nobody's awake yet. So not a single person has awoken. What Minor tells us that some sleepers who have gone straight into very deep sleep, they end up surrounded by ice, catching fire, electrical things go crazy, which gives MC the hint. This must be connected to Black Swan because these people are evolving. We see MC walking away. She's going to go and find CPA. She's going to head over there because she believes that's where the answers are. She is on her... I don't know what she kind of planned to achieve on her own. And we see Victor. Finally, my boy Victor is back. I haven't seen my boy in a while. And he drives in and he's like, get in the car kind of thing, as always. And he says, yes, you're correct. Black Swan is using a sleeping gas to send people into sleeps. They are attempting to awaken the evolves. We heard before that people evolve if they're in certain situations. So the dreams they are doing are depicting scenarios to try and prompt the evolutions. MC does it again. She recalls what happened with Lucian, with that whole episode we had with Lucian and the tree. Victor says that CPA is tied up with some Black Swan research. We get this quite nice little moment. I like this little moment. And it's a little banter between MC and Victor. Bear in mind, Victor is my boy. So I am very happy to see stuff like this going on. MC asks, how long has the great CEO been a detective? Victor says, I'm aware that you would go charging straight in, so I decided that it'd be quicker and also be safer if I provided you some support. Which I love. I love it so much. And MC is shocked because he's not stopping her. And it's just that little moment that Victor himself has changed since we first met him to being that arrogant CEO who kind of looked down on her. He's not angry. He's not calling her names, which is really weird. And he just wants to support her, which is really nice. So we've got a bit of character growth there. What I also want to pick out quickly is Victor's driving on the wrong side of the road. I know it's Loveland. Loveland is anywhere in the world. But we know for sure because of the way he's driving, he is not in the UK and he is not in Japan. So he is neither places. He is driving on the side of the road there that America and the rest of the world drives on. So to me, it's the wrong way around because I'm in the UK. To all of you guys, it's probably the correct way of the road. So Victor is not driving in the UK or Japan. She says, "Where have you been?" So bear in mind, everyone was worried, and Victor did vanish. He hasn't been on the map for a little bit. And he tells her, he says, "I went into the future and I went 10 years ahead." And he kind of plays it off a little bit. And she's like, "What's the future like?" MC, do you know that's a very dangerous question. Mostly asking what your future's like is a paradox. It causes a paradox, MC. We don't normally ask that question. Victor kind of bluffs a little bit. He's not lying, but he's also not telling the whole truth. He's not doing a Lucian. He's not lying here, but he's not fully telling the truth. He says it's peaceful. It's like nothing ever happened. I can't find any information on the evolves or the comatosis. Maybe we resolved it early. Or, as I've put here, maybe it didn't happen at all. Or maybe you're seeing a different future, my boy. So bear in mind that Victor flicked ahead from where they were. It is possible that Black Swan is trying to change that future that he saw. So he saw a future. He didn't see the future that Black Swan is trying to create. I'm not going to go into it too much, but it is linking into the multiverse theory, kind of the idea that there are multiple universes, parallel universes as well. If you're a Steins Gate fan, well, this is very similar to that as well. It goes into that. I'm not going to go into it too much because it's very complicated and I don't like maths very much. He says, this is the bluff now, "You are doing very well. So well that I need an appointment 3 days in advance to get to speak to you." This is kind of ironic because if you're a game player, you know this is ironic. I know this is ironic. That him saying, I needed an appointment 3 days in advance kind of thing. A little bit ironic there. Just going to leave it at that. We get a flash forward again and it's of Frozen Loveland. But again, we notice that it's just Victor who reacts. It's only Victor who looks worried. And that's why I also went, did he lie? Yes, he did. He told a little white lie. He did, and we'll find out in a moment what bit he lied on. Right, so we cut to the CPA. We're finally there. Victor using his powers to get us inside. And the two are able to obtain some data from the Black Swan plan. It turns out that the plan is that the sleeping gas is going to be dispersed and it only affects the non-evolvers. So people who are not evolvers, it only affects those guys. And it encourages them to have a dream. It gets a little dark from here on in. The chances of evolve are really low. MC notices is the survival rate, and it's 0.01%. We're not even talking there's a 1 in 100 chance that you might evolve. We're talking almost a 1 in 1,000 chance that you might evolve. Victor says that most people will die. And that's where we hear Hades kind of talking over going, "Those who cannot adapt to the new world have no chance but to perish as the vanquished." And as the alarm starts to sound, MC sees a ward where these guys are experimenting on the sleeping people. And it gets a little dark, guys. It really does. We see when the sleepers fail to evolve and die, they turn into just a pile of dust, and that's it. And we officially have a body count. We now have people who are actually dying within the anime. Can we just stop to think about my boy here? I'm not gonna lie, I feel like Victor's also a lot more comforting in this anime compared to the game. We had a really nice moment here where he pulls her into his chest so she doesn't look and he kind of comforts her. It's really cute. I love it. It's so beautiful. I love it so much. And the two are spotted. I'm not gonna lie, if you're kind of hugging in front of the door, people are gonna see you in the end. It's sad. MC, as they're running, asks, "Is there a way to wake them up?" And V says, "At the moment there isn't. There's plenty of companies that are developing devices to try and disrupt the brainwaves," which is what we initially saw at the start. He said that this takes the priority right now. So this project takes priority. That is what we saw Victor doing. He's basically investing in companies to try and disrupt the devices. So we see that both MC and Victor both want to stop Black Swan. My boy is on the good side. I'm so happy. And then the Squirtle squad arrive. 3 evolvers appear and they cut off MC and Victor. And then it cuts to the secondary plot, which is going on in this episode, which is going to play a very important role next episode. We cut to my boy Gavin. Gavin is being beaten up by the task force. We essentially see what the task force wants. Let's cut to what the task force wants. The task force, if you bear in mind, are the police. They are the secret force, the police. They have been killing the evolvers. These guys don't side with Black Swan. They're not evil in the sense that they are Black Swan, they're trying to kill these people. They are, in a sense, trying to save the world. So yes, they believe they are heroes of justice. They're trying to save the world, but they believe that it is too early for the world to learn about evolvers. So these guys are not with Black Swan. So try and separate them in your head. So we've got MC, we've got her trying to defeat Black Swan. We have Black Swan who are trying to bring about this future where only the evolvers live. But then we've got the task force here against Black Swan. They don't want to pair up with Black Swan, but they will kill all the evolvers. So we see that Gavin's powers are now at a limit. He's wounded, he looks awful, and he's starting to kind of fade. His strength is failing. He's almost been sentenced to death as well, because the guys around him all kind of point their guns at him. Gavin uses the last of his energy to kind of fly up into the sky and vanish. He leaves his badge on the floor, which is quite ironic because, you know, he's turning his back on the Force almost. And we see him collapse in the forest on the last of his powers. So we end on the task force arriving and seeing his dad, and that is the end of this. We then quickly get our cutscene. So the first half of the episode has been very important. It's about to get a little bit more important and heavy now. I will say the anime ended on a lot of spoilers, and it's going to be very difficult to kind of talk through it without spoiling anyway. So I'm going to tell you guys when the spoilers come up, so it'll give you a chance to quickly flick ahead or decide to listen through it, because I just don't think some of this stuff is going to get mentioned in the last episode. We've got one episode left. I don't think everything's going to get covered. So I'm taking the initiative on a few things here. So we cut here to a very important scene now with a ticking reversing clock. We're about to find out some very important stuff with Victor. Victor really being set up at this point to be a very main player. It almost, I know they're not picking a route, but it does feel like they're picking a guy, a sense to follow, and we've chosen to follow Victor in this sense with this. So Victor said, in that world, she no longer existed. So Victor went to the future. It was peaceful, yes. Everyone was happy and there was no evolvers anymore. But MC was no longer there. It's as if she'd never been born. Victor says, I learnt to control my evolve. I spent time and time to try and learn my evolve. What I would say, the person we see in the hood is probably Victor. Because bear in mind, if Victor's come to the future, there's two Victors. So I believe that Victor learnt to control his evolve. And I can't remember if this is in the game. It might be in the game. I can't remember it. He learnt to control his evolve by learning from his actual self. I searched the entire world for answers. So this is why I really love the guy. He went all the way forward to the future and he spent time over and over again. He almost did a Steins;Gate on us here, guys. He did an Okabe. He repeated the world over and over and over for ways to try and get MC to exist. So why did she vanish? Like, where was she gone? How did we lose her? We see Victor again seeing Frozen Loveland. So it is Victor who is seeing these scenes of the Frozen Loveland and MC walking away from him. And he says, I repeated things over and over again. Oh, my boy. I mean, I would love to at some point do like a video on Steins;Gate because I love it so much. Something for later. This really does remind me of it because Victor went back over and over again to try and get a future where she would be there. So where we would see a future where she was there. And if you guys want to have a different reference, let's go for Marvel. We have the Endgame. Doctor Strange says, how many of those possibilities did you see that we win? And he said 1. It's identical to that. Victor was searching over and over again to have a future where she existed. And he said, I decided at that point to fight by your side and I will change fate with you. Victor wants the same thing as MC. So if you had any doubts about him being a good guy, bad guy, my boy Victor, love him. I love him truly, I really do. He really does want the right thing. We see Victor freezing the evolvers, which causes MC to go, what? Why can't I move kind of thing? And he says a lot happened. So we find out that Victor has developed his powers to the point where he can choose who he freezes. He can freeze evolves. Essentially, Victor became God. He became a god. He leveled up. He was already OP and now he's even more OP. I mean, he's got the powers of controlling time. He's already OP as it is. And now he's got the ability to pick and choose. I'd run into Hades. Of course, Hades has got to show up at some point in this episode. Haven't seen Hades in a little while. We get another flash to Loveland Frozen. So if you haven't got it by this point, guys, I think Loveland is about to freeze, okay? Psst. Loveland's about to freeze. Did you know? So in true villain fashion, guys, Hades announces his plan. He plans to have the electromagnetic waves spread across the globe. All the people will be forced into a sleep. They will perish. So he says people who aren't going to be awaking in his new world are going to perish. They have utilised the Queen's genes that causes evolves. They used her data to create these electromagnetic waves. And he says, Queen, you are the one who is going to cull the human race. He says that the prototype system was the one that Ares, or aka Lucian, created to help you wake up, but he failed. Basically, everything's kind of Lucian's fault. I want to blame Lucian. I'm in a mood to blame Lucian. Let's blame Lucian. We see that Hades uses his powers as really horrible, dark. In true, Hades fashion, he uses these very dark powers, his powers of darkness. I did say that if I get enough interest, I will at some point do a video. Because obviously we end next week. I could do a video afterwards just to fill in the gap. If you guys are interested in seeing a video on who's Hades, who is Ares, who is Helios, blah, 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 let me know in the comments. I can do a nice little video and where the names come from and the kind of symbolism behind them. But I need to know if you're interested. So you do the thing that you guys are good at. I know you guys know what to do because you guys do it better than the guys in God of High School do. So do your thing, guys. Do your thing. Right. MC now gets really angry and she says, I will never lose to you. And then there is this beautiful light, this white light emitting from MC. Is able to almost unlock her own powers, which is quite nice. We hear Hades laughing, says, I'll be waiting for you. The queen who never stops moving forward at the end of this path that you tread. And he vanishes. Because, the villain's got to be there to kind of goad you along and then vanish again. Because that's all he's got. That's the only kind of role he's got at the moment. MC says, was that me? And Victor says, yes, that was your true power. Your powers are near awakened. This is our moment. Okay, right. So let's quickly discuss what we see. We see some policemen looking at the CCTV footage and they said, can you bring them here? And then a white-haired Kiro appears. Yes, you did see Kiro. Now, I'm going to give you a choice here. If you don't want to hear what I'm about to say, I need you guys just to flick ahead by about 10 seconds starting from now. Helios, guys. Helios is here. Helios has appeared. If you remember last episode I said, is his hair changing colour? Yes, it did change colour. Helios is now here. Kiro is gone. Okay, done. And welcome back if you did kind of vanish during that little bit. We are back. So white-haired Kiro tells them, nothing happened here. You must return to your work. And we cut with him doing a really nice little smirk. And I've kind of hopefully put that on the screen. We just got a gorgeous Kiro smirk. We hear Victor explaining a little bit more. He says, your powers must be a bit like mine, where they start to gain new powers. They evolve themselves. Your powers grow as you get stronger. Only the Queen can show us the future after evolution. Faced with the light, there is no way that Hades' darkness can win. We now get our second bit of symbolism, and we see MC and Victor facing away into the sunset. And this is very important. It should hopefully be on screen if I'm doing my job right. This is literally MC and Victor facing into the future. This is the next chapter. This is those two awakening. This is those two looking to the future. They are both looking forward. Both of them together facing forward. We can't see anything past the forward, but they are facing the unknown together. And this is important because there's a bit of mirroring going on in the later scene. So bear in mind, right now, we've just covered the sun. And the sun, if you're a tarot, the sun is almost one of the most luckiest cards you can draw, especially along with the star. The sun is a very good card to have. It's abundance. It's a very lucky card to pull. We cut to MC, now having her resolve. She has a resolve. Someone once told me it was Black Swan who was in the wrong for trying to use the Queen's powers. It wasn't my fault. Initially, I felt like I'd been saved when I heard this. And yes, this was Lucian who said this. But she then says, but now I feel like it's not quite right. It's not as though it wasn't just Black Swan. It hasn't, and it had nothing to do with me. And she even says it's not just Black Swan's doing. These are also her powers. These are my powers as well. If my powers are putting everyone in danger, I'll put an end to this using my own two hands, which is very dangerous talk, MC. Very dangerous talk. She says, I think that's what my powers exist. That's why my powers are here. Whew, it's a dark one. I'll make that wonderful world you saw a reality. And I've put in little kind of quotes, a world without you. And you even see that kind of confusion on Victor's face as well, because obviously Victor lied to her, and I think I know why. I think Victor just lied and said you're doing okay because he didn't want to scare her. He essentially says there is a future. You've got to have something to aim for. This is very similar again to why Doctor Strange says to Tony Stark that there was one. And there's been many, many theories about this and the fact that he tells Tony there's a chance that everything's going to be okay, but there is only one. Victor is telling her there is a future. There is still a future that you need to work for to make it happen. It's very similar. And I'm congratulating this in the sense that I've always said that the writing for the game is really deep. The game's writing is solid. The anime is not doing the best job at conveying this deepness in the plot. It's kind of doing it here though. It is pulling out some parallels going on. we will talk about that next week, perhaps, when or maybe even the week after, when I talk about the anime as a whole. For now, I'm quite impressed that they've managed to draw these parallels out. MC then says, compared to the LFG business meetings, Hades isn't anywhere near as scary. Ah, my boy, I would rather face Victor than Hades, to be fair. And Victor says, well, yeah, you've overcome every ordeal I put you through. Oh, I love it. We then cut the scene again. Victor drops MC home and we see a note on the floor. And MC opens the note of spoilers. This note is so spoilery. We get a series of flashes. These are all flash forwards. You are basically seeing the coming plot. You have just seen the plot coming up. We also see where Hades is. We see Lucian as well. I'm pretty sure that MC sees Lucian. We get the note which actually says the key to the truth is in your hands. I initially was like, oh, is that Kiro? Is that written by Kiro? Because Kiro was key. But she says Lucian. It's been done quite badly. This is when, obviously, he said, you know, despite knowing everything, would you still want to kind of, like, do it if you knew the truth? Can't remember quite when it happened. It happened in the anime. There was a bit where they're sat on the bench, and she says, no matter what, I'd want to know the truth. I think this note is from Lucian, not Eris. Bear in mind, I'm going to keep using the two different names to kind of split them apart. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at that because that was confusing. And MC tells Victor she knows where Hades is. She says, Lucian, even if it calls for many people to be sacrificed, do you still wish for this world to evolve? That cuts to Lucian on a boat because Lucian is on a boat, guys. He's cool. He's looking up at the moon. And now let's have some symbolism for the reverse. If you look at the moon, it's generally the opposite to the sun. So Lucian is the opposite to MC and Victor in that scene. In the tarot cards, the moon often is representative of secrets coming out. The moon also brings out the truth. They normally say during full moons, people go crazy and, you know, the dark truths come out. Lots of stuff gets resolved around full moons, apparently. It fits quite nicely into what's going on. We also know that the moon is darker. It's the flip side. It is the mirror of the sun. The moon itself does not produce any light. It's incapable of producing light. It's just a satellite. It reflects the sun's radiance, which is very important because Lucian's kind of in the dark at the point. He's on the dark side. He himself isn't shining. Queen herself is radiant. She shines. We get our end credit scenes, which is kind of a bit spoilery. Let's talk about the actual end scene before the next episode. We're at the task force base where... Oh, I hate this guy. I don't remember hating him this much in the game. Gavin's dad calls Gavin a thing, which really annoys me. He says that this thing's never had a purpose all its life. He even calls him an it. And it's finally going to have a chance to have some meaning. It's chosen this. We see Gavin is in a tube. They're clearly doing some questionable stuff to Gavin in the tube. Initially, we saw the task force arriving and it cut, so they found Gavin because he didn't get very far. I just don't like the fact that Gavin's being referred to as a thing and it. It really bothers me and I hate it. So if you guys were thinking about pairing with the task force, going, oh, they don't sound too bad. If you wanted to, this shows you that you shouldn't because obviously they're doing bad things to Gavin. Gavin says, wait for me, and then he kind of flatlines. That's it, gone. What you might have noticed is that there's a lot of similarities going on. We are getting an episode with our boys. Something happens, they break away, they go and turn into Eris. Or they break away, they vanish to get white hair. Or they break away and then they get tested on and then they flatline and turn into a completely different character. The next episode, just because you know that Gavin doesn't die, we see the new Gavin. He's kind of glowing, he looks evil. Kiro, cough, in his new form. We see Lucian Eris and we see Victor saying that he's going to take a gamble with her. And then the next episode is episode 12, the final ever episode, guys. The last time I'll probably be talking to you guys is Bonds. There was a lot in this episode. There's a lot of setup going on. There was a lot of annoying flashbacks. Like, if you didn't get the fact that we're going to have an ice age coming our way, well, you've had like 5 flashbacks. I don't see why it wasn't clear, guys. This episode was okay. I think I've said it a few episodes now. I've had a bit of an issue with the pacing. It's been breakneck speed. I want to talk about this more when I discuss the anime as a whole. So for now, we've gone through the episode. We've had some symbolism. We've had some nice moments with Victor and MC. We've seen their like kind of bond grow, which is really nice. We've seen MC herself start to have a resolve to beat Hades, which is really nice. We've seen Lucian. We've seen our boy Kiro. And we've seen Gavin now undergoing a change because we are evolving into our new future. We have a setup. I said initially we'd end at chapter 18. We are indeed ending at chapter 18. Next episode is going to put us at a cliffhanger, or if they do the unspeakable and like kind of push an ending on us, which would just be wrong. So I'm hoping they don't do that. As much as I don't want a cliffhanger, don't push an ending. Mappa, please don't push an ending. Just put us at a cliffhanger. It's the best thing for it, because then I can say, go play the game. And to be fair, if you're not playing the game and you're enjoying the anime but you're confused by the anime, play the game, guys. Please play the game. Next week is the last week I will be talking to you as a review. You might also see 2 announcements next week going on, so stay tuned for that, depending on if things go or get sorted out. So I've got some interesting information on next week's episodes. We will be having a God of High School on Monday, so if you're watching everything, God of High School is Monday. That will be the final God of High School episode as well. Wednesday/Thursday morning, you'll be having your Koi to Producer last ever episode 12 review. There might be 2 reviews, so keep an eye out for something like that. This Saturday or Sunday, because I've now got the weekend off, you guys will be seeing what I plan to watch in the next autumn season coming up, what I'm watching, and what 3 animes have I decided to do YouTube releases on. If you have kind of enjoyed the symbolism breakdowns or me going through these animes and you want to kind of have more content, there are 3 video releases going on next season. So tune into the video, check out what I'm watching. I'm going to explain each anime and why I've chosen these animes to do releases on, because I'm going to be watching loads of animes. I'm just going to pick a few to like zero in on and do actual releases on. Please tune into that video, see if you like any of the stuff that I've chosen, and subscribe. I've had a lot of fun doing these reviews and I'm growing. Hopefully you guys will notice that I'm changing things up, trying to do things better. I do try to keep these videos under half an hour. It's very difficult when you get a big episode like this where lots happen. Let me know if you want me to do a breakdown on like the names, Helios, Ares and Hades. Let me know if you want other like a spin-off stuff coming out the weeks after. I think we get 2 weeks before the new season hit. There could be me doing, if you wanted them, essentially 2 breakdown videos. I will probably do a overall anime kind of review as well, so I'll do that at a later date as well, but I need to know if there's call for it. So if you guys want me to do it and I think it's worth my time, I will do it, because I told you guys it takes quite a long time for me to do these videos. So keep your eyes out, let me know, keep commenting, subscribing, being as amazing as you guys are. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this week's episode, and I will see you guys at some point in next week. Have a good one. Bye bye.